Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving straight into some of the most intense, dark, and just absolutely fascinating survival mechanisms documented in the natural world. Have you ever wondered what happens when the standard fight-or-flight response just isn't quite enough to keep an animal alive? Well, today we are going way beyond the ordinary to look at the extreme lengths some species will go to just to see another day. You know the standard biological playbook, right? It's pretty straightforward. Some animals run and some hide. Most prey rely on classic camouflage, super keen senses, or just raw speed to escape a predator. But evolution has pushed other creatures to extreme, almost supernatural limits. Because when hiding isn't an option and running just isn't fast enough, nature gets incredibly creative. And by creative, I mean truly bizarre. We're talking surviving by shooting blood from the eyes, freezing entirely solid, or actually breaking their own bones on purpose to forge biological weapons. Let's open up 4 of the most extreme biological defense files ever recorded. You're about to see just how weird natural selection can really get. Chapter 1: The Blood-Shooting Lizard. Meet the Texas horned lizard. It's this tiny, spiky reptile living out in arid environments, constantly facing down lethal, much larger predators like coyotes and foxes. When it's totally cornered, it kicks off a visceral biological mechanism. It literally restricts the blood leaving its head. Its internal blood pressure skyrockets until, pop, the tiny blood vessels right in the corners of its eyes violently rupture. It's a completely intentional, highly coordinated move. And once those vessels rupture, it doesn't just trickle. The lizard violently shoots a pressurized stream of this foul-tasting toxic blood directly into the predator's face. And the range is crazy. It can hit a target from up to 5 feet away. Imagine being a hungry coyote, closing in for a quick snack, only to be blasted in the mouth by a 5-foot stream of awful-tasting blood. It's practically guaranteed to ruin their appetite and induce total panic. Think about that for a second. The crucial takeaway here is that this little creature actively damages its own body, bursting its own blood vessels and enduring real trauma just to gross out a predator enough to make a getaway. It's just a stunning example of risk versus reward in the animal kingdom. Moving on to Chapter 2, the undead wood frog. Now, unlike the lizard fighting a visible predator, the wood frog is fighting an invisible, totally inescapable enemy, the brutal Alaskan winter. Temperatures that would instantly kill almost any other amphibian. To survive this, the frog basically dies. Seriously, its heart completely stops beating. Its blood stops flowing, it completely stops breathing, and it lets itself freeze entirely solid, turning into a literal biological ice cube under the forest floor. So how is it not, actually dead? Why don't the frog's cells just rupture from the expanding ice, like a frozen water pipe bursting in the winter? Well, the secret is glucose. The frog produces a massive spike in this sugar, which acts like a super powerful natural antifreeze. It saves the cellular structure from fatal ice crystals. The water between the cells freezes, sure, but the cells themselves stay perfectly protected. And get this, it can remain in this terrifying undead state for up to 8 months. For 2/3 of the year, it's basically a frozen rock. But when spring arrives and the ground finally warms up, the frog slowly thaws out. Its frozen heart miraculously just restarts on its own, its blood begins to pump, and it hops away to find a mate like nothing ever happened. It's an absolutely unparalleled feat of cryogenic survival. Let's head over to Chapter 3, the bone-breaking hairy frog. Deep in Central Africa, we find the hairy frog, which is sometimes ominously called the wolverine frog. And let me tell you, it uses a survival tactic straight out of a horror movie. When it's cornered and attacked, it doesn't try to blend in, and it definitely doesn't play dead. Instead, it flexes its leg muscles with such extreme, focused violence that it purposefully snaps its own skeletal structure. It literally breaks the bones inside its own toes. But the nightmare doesn't stop there. It then forces those jagged, freshly broken bones right out through its own flesh and skin to use them as razor-sharp claws to slash at predators. It literally transforms its own broken skeleton into a biological melee weapon. And the craziest part? Once the frog is safe, it eventually retracts the bones back inside its feet, and the damaged tissue just heals over time. Which brings us to Chapter 4, the chemical bomber. If the hairy frog is all about biological melee weapons, the bombardier beetle has fully mastered chemical warfare. This tiny insect turns its own abdomen into a volatile, high-pressure munitions factory. Inside its body, the beetle houses two completely separate chemical chambers, one for hydroquinone and one for hydrogen peroxide. Now, kept apart, these are perfectly harmless. The beetle just carries them around every day, no problem at all. But if a predator, like a hungry toad, strikes, the beetle opens its internal valves and dumps both of those harmless chemicals into a heavily fortified reaction chamber at the exact same time. Mixing them triggers an instant, violent chemical detonation right inside the beetle's body. It then violently shoots this toxic, boiling liquid out of its backside at a blistering 100 degrees Celsius. That's 212 degrees Fahrenheit, literally the boiling point of water. It fires this spray with a loud, audible pop, severely burning the attacker. The toad gets a face full of boiling acid, and the beetle just scurries away unharmed. It is a perfectly calibrated biological combustion engine. So we've seen a frog that freezes its own heart, a lizard that weaponizes its own blood, a beetle conducting internal chemical warfare, and a frog that literally breaks its own bones. That leads us to the ultimate question. Out of all these bizarre survival tactics, which one is actually the most insane? How do they rank? Well, the wood frog's cryogenic freeze and the bombardier beetle's boiling chemical bombs are undeniably advanced feats of biology, but there's just something deeply unsettling about physical self-mutilation for defense, right? Purposefully shattering your own bones to build literal wolverine claws easily takes the top spot for the most brutal, hardcore defense mechanism we've explored today. And I think the big takeaway here is this. Nature doesn't just reward the biggest, the fastest, or the strongest. A lot of the time, it rewards the absolute weirdest. It really makes you wonder, if evolution is willing to freeze blood, boil acid, and shatter bones just to ensure survival, what other brilliant and horrifying adaptations are currently out there evolving entirely out of sight? Thank you so much for joining me to uncover these dark and downright bizarre files from the natural world. Be sure to pause the explainer here and check out these fantastic sources if you want to dig deeper into the incredible science behind these animals. Keep questioning, keep learning, and I'll catch you on the next explainer.